All right, welcome. Let's go for a little bit of review. Had 24 hours to spend with the EOS R, and I thought you might be interested in some thoughts and reviews, and we'll give a few minutes for people to join in. So I did a few shoots, some tough lighting situations, messed around with the EF to EFR converter, used a bunch of different lenses, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty intuitive. My first outing with the camera was fantastic. The Speedlites work seamlessly, all my other lenses work seamlessly, so I've had a chance to actually download some images, metadata, and all that information, and then I thought we could make some prints. So I'll pull some stuff up here, and we could get into the nitty-gritty of stuff and have a chat. I've found out some more custom features. Currently there isn't a manual on this, so kind of flying by the seat of our pants and experimenting with things. And I consulted with Drew at Canon, Drew McCullum. He's a product specialist manager there, and he gave me some tips because this is the most customizable camera Canon has had to date. With the buttons, the touch bars, the dials, you could really customize this thing. And that could feel a bit overwhelming. So I just wanted to touch base with him and find out what are some of the best practices or best uses. Like for instance, the command ring on the front of the lens. Like really, I don't know, what would you assign that to? It's so new to me because you could assign so many functions to it. And Drew had a great thought. He's like, well, what do you use it on? I'm like, well, I use exposure compensation a lot. He's like, well, cool. Well, you can assign that, and it's intuitive. So if I turn it one direction, it's bringing exposure compensation up. If I turn it the other direction, it's turning exposure compensation down. The touch bar is really cool. Same thing. What could you do with that? So for that, I assigned ISO because I'm constantly changing ISO. So if I tap the left arrow, it brings me to 100 ISO. If I tap the right arrow, it takes me to 6400 ISO. If I slide my thumb, I can use the ISOs in between. So that's just some of the experiences. So let me grab the camera here, come a little closer. I don't have Zach with me today, so I can't have a really good assistant, so we're gonna do this way. So I've downloaded, what did it make? Fired off 170 frames. It really was my goal to make a good image. Hey, Eric Stoner, yeah, let's check the feed. Hey, and again, if you guys like this, please share it. Yesterday I did the unboxing. Give it a share, give it a shout, give me a thumbs up. I'm really excited to share the experience with the EOS R. So let's see, any questions so far? Miss Dawn Davis, want to come on camera? No? Eric. Keith White, yeah, excited to see. As of right now, I'm shooting RAW plus JPEG because we don't have a RAW decode yet. I don't have the beta version of Canon's DPP, Digital Photo Professional, for the RAW decode, but I know it's coming, so I'm going to shoot large RAW and large JPEG. Let's see, any questions here? Just checking in the feed. Bob Ray. Bob Ray's down at the bottom there. I'm just scrolling through. Scott Harmon. Let me get into it. So I don't see it, but I will follow up and go through with it. So here, let's have a look. So I used Photo Mechanic, ingested everything, and I've had this concept image in my mind rattling around for a little bit. I've wanted to do a portrait where it's a black and white background. And I light the face on the dark side, and I silhouette the face on the light side. Bruce Dorn, you've had the most experience with this. How are those big white lenses? Man, I was so excited to see your feed. I put in the hashtag EOSR and pulled up. So Uncle Brucey, I'm excited to see your experience. I'm sure Uncle Cannon loved how muddy you got that R. But yeah, so anyways, getting back to this, these are Speedlites. So the first frame, because I wanted it to be consistent and be, kind of a portfolio statement image on the very first frame I took with the camera, I used manual on the Speedlites, and I used a light meter, and I did a test shot first, like pulling a Polaroid, old school days, with the EOS M, the M5, and then got everything dialed in and took the first frame with the EOS R. So here's the EOS R. I love having the battery grip on it. As you can see, I've already put a Peak design clutch on it. Peak design quick release, because when I have the camera on a tripod last night, I zipped off the strap because I was doing some 30-second long exposures to get the clouds swooping and things, and I didn't want the strap adding any vibration. So yeah. Oh, another cool little feature. These little features that are in the camera are amazing. So you have two batteries, right? The LPE6's batteries in there. But what's really cool, first time ever on a battery grip, is you have a battery indicator for both batteries. So it's really useful information. All right, anyways, let's look into some images here. And I'm going to make a print so we could go print live, right? So let's flip the camera around. I'll try and hold it here. So again, just right straight out of camera, no manipulation at all. The file is amazing. It's outstanding. I used the face detect AF plus eye detect AF. Now we had no lighting overhead. This is in James' garage. So his face is totally lit like this in the shadow. But because the camera opens up to its maximum aperture, it acquires focus, and I'm telling you, it is precision. So look at this. Look at that resolve. Look at that sharpness. Look at that detail. And it did a better job finding and locking focus on the eye than I could moving the focus mark with my thumb on the glass to the eye and trying to lock focus. It did a much better, more efficient job. So for portraits, weddings, events, low light, I mean, this is just outstanding. So let's take a look at the histogram here. Here's the metadata. So it is reading EOS R in photomechanic. So this was the 50mm lens, 1.2, ISO 250, aperture 4, 1/60th of a second shutter speed. I didn't want any ambient light coming in. It does have a sync speed of 200th of a second. So all of the flash was manual mode. So 3 speed lights, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. In manual mode, in manual white balance. I chose 5600 degrees Kelvin. So we look at the histogram, and it is slightly a little bit on the cool side, but that was the look I'm going for. But I don't know if you could see this in the file, but there is information in the shadow side, right? So the dynamic range of this. You know, we have nice bright highlights, no chromatic abrasion along the side. There is still detail in here if I wanted to brighten the shadows, but again, this is a JPEG straight out of camera. And look at that sharpness. I mean, that's just amazing, amazing, right? And I did do various photographs at 1.2. I traded up to my 85-1.4, shot it at 1.4, f8, f16. I mean, incredible. Everything worked seamlessly. So let me bring on some questions here. The battery grip is really nice, Jennifer. It really, for someone like me, I've got a large grip, and I love the battery grip. It just feels more comfortable in my hand. Hey, Uncle Bruce. Yes, it's very cool. Wait, well, let's see. It's going by too fast. There we go. All right, so let's come over here. I've already actually got the image set up. Went to Photoshop and then brought it into Canon Print Studio Pro. And I've got some Hahnemühle Fine Art William Tell paper. It's all set up. I'm going to make one black and white print and one color print. So let me put this back over on the stand. Sorry to stick you guys pointed up at the ceiling. But here we go. And we're going to send it to the printer. So here's the office setting. And we're going to send this guy. to print. So I have the proper print profile, proper print sizing, so it's full frame. And we are going to print away. So it's processing, and it's going to send it over to the Pro 1000. So the Hanamule paper is a really nice, fine art, textured paper. So I'm super excited to see how this will look in color and in black and white. I think this is going to look really killer in black and white. So it's sending the information over. So while it's doing that, while the print's coming out, let me check, flip it around here, and see what we got on for questions. Mr. Fox.
There's lots of questions in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Let me go through the feed. It would be nice to have a separate monitor to pull up the questions.
So you can or can't use other lenses?
You can. So yeah. Oh, Dawn, if you could tell me the questions, I could answer them. That'd be great. Yes, you can use any Canon EF or EFS lens. So let me talk about the EFS lens. So those are for cameras like the 7D Mark II, anything, the Rebel series that has a 1.6 crop factor, the EFS lenses. So when you put an EFS lens onto the full frame R, it's automatically going to crop back to the 1.7 APS-C crop factor, because you got to remember that rear element of that lens is so small. If it didn't do that, you would have a dark vignette around it because it's not full frame. But with the EF to R converter, it's seamless. And Canon sent us the one with the command ring. So any command functions that I tell the body, like I currently have it set for exposure compensation, translates even if I'm using my 70 to 200 EF or the 11 to 24, 8514, it seamlessly integrates. And I do have to say, we went to a club last night. I'll pull this image up. James was kind of mentoring a DJ at the Smart Bar in Chicago, and it was all foggy, super low light. And I wanted to see how it would handle the fog because it's so flat, not much contrast to grab a hold of focus. Now, because I was further away, I took it off of face detect, and then I was selecting a single focus box. And what's cool is the entire field of view, and I have it set up to where I could select my focus point by sliding my thumb on the glass, the entire field of view. So it's not like you have 65 focus marks, it's thousands because it's the entire field of view, right? Specifically, there is a percentage to that, what it is, but you know, for my intensive purposes, it's the entire field of view. So, Dawn, any other questions? Yes. What else we got here? Dawn's being ever so kind, helping me out.
Bruce Dorn said, have you handled the new 400 and 600? They're sick.
Oh, Uncle Bruce, I think you're the only guy that's got those, man. I saw you playing with those. I'm so stoked about the 600 being lighter. Oh, man, I can't wait. I'm sure Chaz Glaetzer is excited. I'm excited because everything's been improved, right? The IS, the weight alone is going to be crazy. Oh, the question is if I had my hands and an opportunity to use either the new 400 version 3 or 600 version 3. No. This is my only opportunity. So what I have is the body grip 24 to 105 EFR and the 51.2 EFR. Let me slide over here. So let's see, here's, so we could, let me pull this closer so you guys could see the metadata. And I'll show you, I ran through the apertures, right? So this is aperture 4, so it's wide open. Sorry, this was the 24 to 70 EFR at 50, wide open aperture 4. So then the next shot took it up to aperture 8. And again, what you're doing is you're just increasing your depth of field from the eye. So it's a little bit forward on the hand, a little bit further back to the ear, but just outstanding. F16, we're in focus from chin to, the back of his head. It's hard to see that in this little iPhone on the screen. So then back to f8, right? And these are the 50 millimeter now. I switched it. So this is f2.2 on the 50 millimeter 1.2. So dig that, f2.2, right? Just that's 100% zoom in. Spot on sharp, right where I wanted it, right on the eye. And you could see the focus fall off is starting to get nice and soft along the edges. So the 50 millimeter, oh no, this is the 85 millimeter lens at 2.2, right? Sick, it's just crazy. Here's the 85 again at 1.4 and not a miss on the focus, nothing missed, right? Look at that, 1.4 right on the eye. And I'm not kidding you, it was this dark, shadow side, like this, trying to acquire focus. His face was like that. And boom, it got it. That's what's exciting for me about mirrorless. So James was playing around with the camera, shooting some of me. Let me get over to where we were at the club, right? So I did a couple in-camera black and whites, which look great. Just playing with the black and white. But here's what's really cool, is this super harsh environment. It's foggy, there's no light on him, and it's still where I'm selecting the focus mark. Now I'm telling the camera where to focus, it locked on. Just the subtlest amount of light, it was picking it up. So this is using the 50 millimeter 1.2, 3200 ISO at f2.2, 1/60th of a second shutter speed. So messing around in there. And then I thought, okay, you know, you get the nice silhouette with the light. So I asked James to hold up his iPhone to cast a little bit of white light onto Seamus. And then this is what we got, right? It's just incredible that we're still at 2.2 in this crappy environment and just get this kind of sharpness right on the eye. I mean, it's just incredible.
More questions.
Okay, so let me get to, like here you could see the smoky environment, but one of the shots that was really cool that I was digging on was this environment. Low light, fog, super red, and it's still focused. Focused like a banshee, right? So it's amazing. Here, let me step over here. That's my assistant puppy, Hunter. He likes to help out every, right, Hunter? Say hi. All right, so let's just take a peek. Okay, 1 second. I was just checking on the print. See how the print's cooking? So the print's coming out. The blacks are super rich. So, okay, let me come back over here. Wait for that print to print out. And I'll flip the camera around. Shoot me a question, please.
So, I got questions.
Tell me. Hopefully I got answers.
Bob Ray's, but it only has one person memory card slot.
Oh, I didn't see Bob Ray's question. So what was the question?
Is it only have a one-person memory card slot?
I hate to admit it. So yes, Bob Ray, it too only has one SD card memory slot. You know, but again, remember the audience and all of that Canon is aiming this camera at. This initial full frame EOS R body is aimed at that mid-level photographer, high-level enthusiast. They're not exactly calling this a pro body. So I anticipate with that messaging, what they mean is Canon's going to come out with a pro-level body, probably a larger buffer, probably a faster motor drive, more frames per second. This is 8 frames per second, one shot, 5 frames per second in servo. Uncle Bruce, if you could chime in on that.
Bruce left the building.
Bruce left the building, because Uncle Bruce has been using these guys a lot on some skydivers and motocross racing. So if you can, go check out Bruce Dorn on Instagram. I don't know his handle, but just search out Bruce Dorn and his website and see all the stuff he's now allowed to share.
Also, Eric Stoner has been shooting a lot with it.
Eric Stoner, is he still in Hawaii? I know they had the camera launch for the US in Hawaii, and I saw some of his feed with models and things in Hawaii. Yeah, so another question do you have?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Dawn.
Nielsen.
Ken.
Ken Nielsen said, I just bought a do I take it back and get this instead? So much to consider, and I'm getting the idea that I should.
So Ken,
Nielsen.
yeah, I would have to say.
What's the question?
So the question is Ken just purchased a 6D. So 6D Mark I you said he did? Because there is a 6D Mark II.
Yeah.
If you just purchased a 6D Mark I would highly, in my gut, say yes. Go and get the mirrorless, because the most exciting thing about mirrorless, and I said this before, isn't the small body, right, and the lighter weight. What it is the prism is out of the way, and how close this rear element gets right to the imaging sensor. That's the magic, people. That's what's awesome, is because you're going to really get the optimal quality of light transfer. It's right there on the image sensor. Focus is more accurate. Everything, the sharpness, everything is right there, because the lens doesn't have to get, the light does not have to pass through the lens, reflect off a mirror, up in the pentaprism, allow you to focus it, then the mirror gets out of the way, then it actually shifts focus again to the image sensor. Let me see if I can show it. So this little circle is on all your cameras, circle with a line through it. That's indicating exactly, in the old school days, where the film plane was. And nowadays, it's where the image sensor sits. So if you think about traditional DSLRs, is in order for us to see the image in focus, we're focusing on the mirror, which is at an angle. The mirror is not exactly in alignment with the image sensor. So as the mirror goes up, there's some fuzzy logic and magic that happens to allow it to focus. That's why they allow the lenses to be calibrated and micro focus adjustment. So for that factor alone, Ken, I would say the R is an amazing camera, and you won't be disappointed. Not at all.
Next question.
Yes.
And Eric Stoner's still there if you need to ask him anything.
Oh, cool.
Repeat that.
Eric is still online, so if we got any more technical questions, please jump in.
Bruce
Woo!
said, but I really like that you can charge the batteries in camera.
Oh, that's a really plus feature. So Bruce pointed out that by plugging in the USB cable to the camera, it will charge the batteries in camera with the USB connection. So that's cool. And also it has GPS. I finally connected the Wi-Fi transmitter capability and the remote functionality of the camera through the Canon Camera Connect app on your iPad, Android device, or smartphone. But here it is, prints matter. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let me put this down here for a tick. I've got an ice light here, which is daylight. It's not the proper viewing, meaning like a print viewing box. But let's turn this lens around and see what we could see, and then we'll send a black and white one to it. So here we go. No photoshopping. This is just sent to Photoshop to print. Look at that beautiful texture paper, rich darks. Wow, whites are white. I mean, that's from a JPEG. And the JPEG files open up. This one is nearly 86 megabytes, right? Just beautiful print. Man, I'm just so stoked. I'm as excited about this as I am when the EOS cameras came out with autofocus, right? So this is just the evolution, and you know, the R really is a revolution for the camera. So I am going to go over to Photoshop, and I'm just going to flip the image to black and white. There we go. Oh, hold on. Let me close this. There we go, back here.
Any more questions?
Tell me a question.
So Mario 10 said, "Hi Bob, how did the Pro Photo flashes perform this season? Are they compatible with the mirrorless Canon?"
So the question was, what was it, Marlon?
Mario 10.
Mario, I don't know. I haven't tested it with the Pro Photo strobes. Oh, sorry about that. The question is, Mario asks if the new, B1X, B1. ProPhoto is going to have a new strobe announcement coming out next week. I imagine it's going to be something like the AD200 in that size and range. But will it be TTL? That's the question. TTL compatible with the R? I would assume yes, but I've not tested mine with it yet. I've only used the Speedlites. This photograph, so once I send this to the printer, we could talk about how it was created, right? I'll get this.
What kind of printer that is?
Yep, the printer, I'm using a Canon Pro 1000 printer, and this is Hahnemuhle Fine Art Textured William Tell 17 by 22 inch paper. Stunning, just stunning. I mean, we could, sign this and hang it in a museum. The quality is that amazing. So let's talk about how this was created, right? So this backdrop that's there initially is a very old piece of material. It has a lot of history to it. And what it is Dawn probably remembers, is in the early 90s, I had to do a portrait of Muhammad Ali when I was a photographer at the Chicago Sun-Times. And it was for a feature story on Muhammad Ali winning some Lifetime Achievement Award. He was in Chicago. And I did a little research on Muhammad Ali, and he's one of the first African-American athletes to truly cross the racial barrier to where he wasn't a black athlete or he wasn't a white athlete. He was like Muhammad Ali, and he had a global appeal. So I wanted to do a portrait of him with that global appeal. Now, I wanted to do it like this, but I didn't have that much time with him, so basically he just stood there. I had one strobe, an old bell car with an umbrella, shot on film, 5 frames, and you're out. So I wasn't able to get it this nuanced. So this image has been lingering in my head that long. So I dug this background out. It's just black and white cloth material sewn together. So I pulled it out, and what we did is, in order to get the white side white, I didn't want to light it from the front, because if I lit it from the front, I wouldn't be able to have the silhouette in the front. Because it is material, light will pass through it. So I had 2 Speedlites, Canon 600 XRTs in groups B and C behind it in Westcott light modifiers to evenly light it, right? Manual mode, and if I recall correctly, I believe it was 1/8 power. The front, again, I didn't want any light spilling onto the shadow side. I used a Westcott Rapid Box, 12 by 16, don't quote me on that, with diffusion and grid, the smaller Rapid Box for Speedlights. And James is about 5 feet away from the background, so I could control the spill. So I have no illumination from the flash, the Speedlight 600 XRT, illuminating the black. On camera, I had an STE3 Speedlight transmitter, and as you guys know, that does not have a focus assist beam. While the R does have a focus assist beam on it, I purposely deactivated it just to challenge the camera to see if it would really lock on the face and eye lock, and as you can see, it did. Johnny Lou, any more questions?
Yes.
All right, shoot.
How did you set up the rear touch control for your shooting? Mike Hagan.
Mike, so the question was, how did I set up the rear touch control for the shooting? That's in the menu structure here. So let me see if I could get an over-the-shoulder kind of shot so you guys could see too. We'll pull it down here, pull it down here. So I think you guys could see it, right? So here's the initial information screen. So what I love that Canon has been doing for a long period of time, unlike other Canon camera manufacturers, is they keep a lot of the functionality, the menu structure, your options and nomenclature and verbiage the same. So when I picked this up, even though I don't have a manual, I got it set up pretty much exactly how I wanted it. So if I go to my menu, what I've done is I've gone through all the menus, but I've also gone, and it is a touchscreen, and set up my menu. The same as I would my 1DX Mark II and my 5D Mark IVs and my other cameras. So I have the same features in my menu 1, my menu 2, my menu 3. you know, and I add the items that I routinely would want to go to quickly, like format the card, picture style, white balance, all those sets of things. Communication, silent shutter. Oh, yeah, silent shutter is just amazing. So you could see here, I have to disable silent shutter. And what's really cool feature that they did is in silent shutter, it is completely silent. Once you captured the image, to know you made an exposure, it illuminates a white ring around the photograph so that you know it goes like you made an exposure, because otherwise, seriously, you would not know. So here we go. So if I go to touch shutter, I can enable it or disable it. So what touch shutter is, if I enable it and we click it on and I hit info and I get live view, so wherever I focus and touch, it will capture an image. So that's touch shutter, right? So if you want to work off the screen, which is fully articulated, you can, right? So that's great. Let's go back to my menus and my menu 2. So touch and drag. Touch and drag setting is something that I became familiar with the M series camera. And this is all customizable. So touch and drag AF is active. I enabled it. So what that means is instead of having the joystick selector to choose where you want the camera to focus, you just move your thumb around the screen while activating the shutter button, and that selects your focus point. And then you could also select what focus points you want: single, face detect, a cluster, allow the camera to pick it. So all those methods are the same. So you have the ability to be absolute, meaning exactly where you move your thumb, or relative. I've been experimenting with both of those, and relative feels a little bit more comfortable to me, and that's going to be something that's personal to you. Active touch area, so you could set that up to be the right side. So if you have a smaller hand, you don't have to reach very far. If you have a larger hand, it could be top left, or if you even want to use your opposite hand, you can do that. So that's completely customizable as to where you want that touch area to be sensitive. So for right now, I'm on the right side, the entire right side of the screen. I can move my thumb for focus. So essentially, this is what you're doing, only looking through the viewfinder, and you're moving the focus around. And it's very smooth, so you heard the click. It took the photo because I touched it. So focus and touch, and it'll click, right? So once it acquires focus, it'll take the photograph. Cool. Any other information, Ms. Dawn?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you guys for the questions. Remember, share this out if you're liking it. Thumbs up. Appreciate it.
Scott Harmon asked if this is this first full-frame Canon to support EF and EFS.
Scott Harmon asked if this is the first full-frame Canon camera to support both the EF and EFS lenses. To my knowledge, yes it is. If you have like a 5D Mark IV, you know, you would have either a white starting focus mark or a red one. So while the Rebel cameras will take both, right? The Rebel cameras will take both an EFS and an EF mount. Full frame EF cameras will not, because remember, the crop area is 1.6 on a APS-C size image sensor. So the rear element of that lens is in relative design and shape smaller, so it could cover the APS-C size image sensor. So you can't put an EFS lens onto an EF body because you would have severe vignetting. Now, as I said at the beginning of this, when you put an EFS lens onto the full frame, it will automatically crop your field of view and what the image will capture to the APS size image sensor. Because if it didn't do that, you would have a large dark area vignetting, because that EFS lens would not illuminate the full size image sensor.
So
that was a mouthful.
Eric Stoner said, S, yes, but it will crop to the 1.6 same as an
Yes, that's exactly what Eric Stoner, thank you. We're on the same page. He knows more about this stuff than me, but yes, that's exactly what we both said.
Cool.
Cool.
So Jeff Youngren asked if he thinks you'd shoot a whole wedding on it.
Jeff, I'm getting the black and white print. Sorry, that's why I walked off camera here. You know what, Jeff? I've been shooting digital since the old days when you would have a VCR type pack and you'd shoot onto a 3-inch floppy disk, right? So we've been spoiled, I could say, in this modern era of digital with an in-camera backup dual slot. Knock on wood, I have had cards get corrupted, but with software and things of that nature now, I've never had a card that becomes corrupted that you can't recover. While that being said, that's a pain in the butt. Would I be comfortable? Yes, because I highly maintain and take care of my memory cards. So once a month, I use a disk utility to hard format all of our memory cards, wipe them to FAT32.0. That takes everything off of them. Then I put them back into the camera and I format them there. So that's a clean slate. So with digital memory cards, if you pop that memory card in and out of different cameras and you keep formatting, you get a lot of junk files because if you recall, even though you format the card in camera, it gives you kind of a clean slate, but all that data is still underneath it. So it's recoverable until you write over it. That's why I do a hard erase in the computer, which wipes out all of that background information, and it's just like having a brand new memory card. So long story short, yes, I would be comfortable using this camera on an event. Another reason I'm comfortable is I never shoot with one camera body. I have two camera bodies, so while I'm doing formal portraits, for example, I'll have the 24-70, I make a few frames and I say, wait a minute, and then I run back and I use the 70-200 with my other body. So again, that's just been my nature. If we didn't have two memory slots and one camera goes dead or someone stole that camera at the wedding reception, I still have images from the same scene on the other camera. And that's just the way I've always operated. Cool.
Rob Laporte and Diego just joined.
Rob Laporte, you're going to love the new 600 and 400. You'll be bringing that to Botswana. We'll be 600 twinsies. I'm placing my order for the 600 immediately. Right, Dawn?
Yes.
Yes, reluctantly. She's like, why do you need all this new stuff? I don't get it. Isn't a camera just a camera?
So, Leanne Buss asked, how is the look of the bokeh? Or have you checked that out yet?
The look of the bokeh is outstanding.
Leanne Buss asked.
Leanne, yeah, the look of the bokeh and the lenses are buttery smooth and crazy, outstanding, beautiful. Now, I've only been taking night photos because I'm trying to push this camera to its extreme. I have a whole concept shoot planned for Sunday, and I'm going to use this camera tomorrow on an event. So here's our color image. So, hey, I'd like an opinion. Color, black and white. Thoughts? Black and white.
Black and white.
Color. It's finally a relief to get this image out of my head. It's been rattling around in my head, this concept. All right.
So, somebody else asked a question about Dory said, Bob, one question regarding the equipment I saw on your table. I think I saw a rad array solution for a few drives on there, unless I'm wrong. I want to know which brand you use.
For storage devices, was Dory asking about?
He said, I saw
a RAID?
I think I saw a RAID array solution. Yes.
Yes. Yep. So, okay, Dory, let me close this out. We could talk a little bit about storage, and then I was going to show a couple of scenic photos, city scenescapes that I took last night. Just pop this up to the contact sheet, and I'll give you an overview of what we've got going on here. High-level overview, workflow-wise, we bring everything in through Photo Mechanic. We ingest because everything gets a who, what, when, where, why, caption, keyworded, contact information, every file. So this image here, let's pull up the metadata info on it. So if this image gets out, all this information is in here, all about the camera, what lenses, keywords, who, what, when, where, why, how to reach us, that's all here. So nothing gets orphaned. And then Photomechanic has a tutorial on their workflow site. So your preferences with this, meaning your colors, stars, flags, picks, all that, match Lightroom. So, we did some huge events. Here, this wedding has 10,600 images. I just ingest everything. So this was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday wedding, 2 photographers, hence 10,600 images. So everything's brought in, and now I'm going to start culling that. And yeah, I love the cullinator. I could sit back and cull, and I have the advanced. I can color code it. And then when we're done with that, when we get our cull, we'll cull this down to whatever. We're going to pick the best image from each scenario we're seeing. And then that initial cull, everything is red. So then that gets pulled, everything's copied out into a folder called cull. Now then I'll open up the folder named cull, I'll erase all the tags and colors, and that's where I'll go through and I'll categorize everything, meaning what are some of our categories down? Prep, first look and portraits, details, ceremony, all those sets of things. Because it's much faster to do it in Photomechanic than it is in Lightroom because it isn't generating a thumbnail in the background. So let's say we culled this down to 2,000 images. Now it's categorized and I have smart collections in Lightroom. So once I open up Lightroom, it's all sorted, boom, done, because we export in those categories and upload it to ShootProof. So if a couple only wants to see their first look photos first, they go to first look instead of a massive folder full of images. All right, so that's how everything gets in, right?
So Jonathan Perkin wants to know if you had a chance to look at video features.
Jonathan, video features, I haven't, to be honest with you. I mean, I've pushed the button, I've played with it, but I haven't done anything with it because I'm primarily a still photographer. Yes, I have made short films and features and things, but my first 24 hours have been spent dialing the camera in with all these custom features, how I like it, and then being comfortable with the operation of it because it is very different. I'm a 1DX shooter. So 5D Mark IVs are my backup or my remote cameras. 1DX are my primaries. So it is very different from that. Let me just touch really quickly back to Dory. I know I'm taking a long time to say it, but here's our storage. Right? So everything comes in and it goes to this QX2. So this is a 24 terabyte RAID. You could configure it however you want, but it's RAID 1 for us. But this is duplicated. I have, and I use Lexar card readers. They're Thunderbolt or USB 3 to download multiple cards simultaneously. Now, every day at 4 p.m., this OWC gets duplicated onto this OWC. Simultaneously, we're having it uploaded to Backblaze. So it's constantly running in the background, backing up our 2 RAIDs. And also, let me come back over here. See these toaster drives? The initial raw images, not the Lightroom catalogs or nothing like that, are dumped here as well. These go into the safety deposit box once they're full. So we initially have 3 backups right on premises. 1 is in the cloud. So these are rock solid, fail-safe. I still have this old Drobo, right, which was supposed to be a long-term storage device. I would never suggest anybody use Drobo. I've had terrible experiences with them. I've had them fail and terrible customer support. So I still keep this old Mac laptop because the Drobo dashboard, if I update the Drobo dashboard and the operating system, I will not be able to access this. And what Drobo wanted to do is hold me hostage to buy their latest box to work with new Drobo dashboard and the latest Apple software. which to me, this is supposed to be a long-term storage device. So here's my first RAID from OWC. You know, it's like 1 terabyte, and I could plug it into any computer and work it. It's not dependent on software. Same with all these other consecutive Drobos. Dawn has a workstation downstairs where we still had a few of these old Drobos because I thought they were the thing, but we've since converted everything to the OWCs with just a plain RAID system. So it could plug into a PC, it could plug into a Mac, and you can open it up. All right. Any other questions, Miss Dawn?
Look.
Cool beans. Remember, share this out if you guys are enjoying it. Give it a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Got them all. And we'll go back through the feed. So again, put some more in the feed. I'm going to be photographing anything and everything. I got some really cool shoots. I hope they all pan out with the R. Hopefully Canon is not going to ask for this camera anytime soon. Shh, Eric, I get to keep it for a while, right? Okay, we won't tell him. I'm not asking when it has to be back. So back when the 5D Mark II launched, I got it on a Friday, and it had to be back on a Monday. And I did the first short film with that Voyage. So if you're really curious, and that's before we had manual capability with the 5D Mark II. If you wanted to photograph at 2.8 or make a film at 2.8, you had to use an ND filter, meter lock off something dark, and then recompose without letting up meter lock to get the bouquet look. So if you're interested in that, go to our YouTube page, Bob and Dawn Davis, and you could look up Voyage, and you could see the first film I made with that. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in there. Throw your questions in the feed. I'll get to it. Please remember, share this out if you found it of value, and give us a thumbs up. Stay tuned. I'll be posting stuff all weekend.